Hey, well, here we are again. We're coming to you from the Cosmic Conversations, and we are on a whole bunch of different platforms out there. So, whenever you find this show, you can also know you can see it later on one of the other platforms. And we Sheila could not be here tonight, so I'm just going to guest host for her, and we're going to try to have a little bit of fun because we have a phenomenal guest with us, a gentleman that is also part of the mastermind group that Nori and I do, and we've gotten to know each other fairly well, and we're going to see if we can get him to spill the beans on the aliens tonight. We just might. Anyway, I want to say just a few things about Christopher Harmon. He on my screen, he's up in the upper left-hand corner, so the blue jacket there, you can see him, and he is he's a field investigator for MUFON and also a counselor and working with people who has had UFO experiences or alien encounters and need some understanding of what really happened because there's a lot of people that is in those shoes. And maybe also a little bit to why were they chosen to have this experience? Because it may not be random. And yeah, why me? I know some of them have asked that question. So we're going to talk about that too. And we also may get into a little bit about how we can stop this from happening. And he's also a paranormal investigator with SWPI, that is short for Something Wicked Paranormal Investigation. That's a cute name. And he is a pro photographer, and he's got his own podcast that I want him to talk about. And he has several degrees. He's astronomy, science, and well, we're going to go into every corner of the universe by the time we're done here because we're going to talk about the alien presence, the UFO issue. Why is there so much of it right now? And it's going to be quite a little bit of a revelation. So, welcome to the show here, Christopher.
Welcome, Augie. Glad to be here. Gonna be a great
Yeah,
time.
yeah, this will be good. I know you have had your personal experiences as well from a very early time. Talk to you a little bit because I know a lot of the listeners and viewers, they like to know a little bit about you. How did this come about for you that you're doing right now? When did it start? When did you start having experiences?
I think it started when I was born. I was born 8 weeks early, but they said no, he won't make it, and somehow I magically survived. And then from that point on, I began to have dreams as a kid, dreams of people I didn't recognize, and on the same token, I had those dreams. Some of those dreams, I was flying, and I didn't know where I was flying at or what I was flying in. And but I always remembered my mother. She looked very, very beautiful. She had a long, like white dress on and beautiful hair. But what she was doing was she was showing herself in human form, so she wouldn't scare me in natural form. And this went on for quite a few years. I would see people in my dreams at night. I would wake up thinking that seemed a little bit too real to be dreams, but I shrugged it off as being dreams until I got older, when they started coming around in more of their natural form. And of course, at first I was afraid to acknowledge them or even look at them. I would kind of turn my head and hide from them. But finally, one day I had the idea, there's nothing to be afraid of, just look at them. It's got to be peaceful. And at this point, I was in my 20s or thereabouts. So I turned around one night and looked at them. And sure enough, they were just like what I remembered in my dreams. And they were real, and they were not harmful at all. And so we grew rather close together, me and my family up there. And But of course, whenever I would come back from these dreams or come back from being taken, I didn't have a whole lot of memory of it other than bits and pieces that they would allow me to remember. And usually those bits and pieces were just simply me and them together and not really anything that was going on. And as I got older, they began to allow me to remember more. And I remember flying on the craft. I remember the home base, which the home base that we were at is Zeta Reticuli. That's we have a craft or a big like house up there, but we call it a craft. But it sits there. It doesn't fly. There's little ships that we use to fly in, and it took me uh several years to finally understand all of this. But the large craft is the home base. It's pure black, and it is humongous. And once you get in there, it's all kind of like Augie's background. There's a lot of computer screens, but it's all done telepathically, and they can pretty much take their hands and just think of anything they want. My family does, and then make it so just by thought and their hands. And I went under after several years of having these encounters. Uh, so some of them are kind of left me confused and baffled. I didn't know why they were taking me. Sometimes it would just be out of the clear blue at night. It was always at night, but usually, and this is the odd part, it was always around 9:30 or so. They would take me, and then about an hour or 2 hours later, they bring me back. But what's funny is there were times that I felt like I was gone a lot longer than what I really was. And I've heard other experiencers say that they've been taken before, but they were told that we can take you for as long as we want and bring you back. Nobody will even know you were even gone. It can be that simultaneously. That kind of made me think maybe they were doing that to me because there were times that felt like I was gone a lot longer than I was, even weeks at times it felt like. Um, but these encounters were at first, like I say, they were puzzling and sometimes even scary. But then as I got older, into my 20s and on, I began to remember more, and I began to realize this is all peaceful. And one day I was very, very sick, and I've been in the grocery store business for 25 years. And I was lying there in bed, had a terrible cold, and didn't feel right. And I was asking my family if you can hear me. I said, "Come down and let me know that everything's going to be okay," because I felt terrible. And they never came. The very next day, I actually felt better, so they must have came overnight and healed me. I felt better the next day, and I was at my day job working, and this woman come through, dressed all in black, and I thought, she looks kind of familiar. I think she's going to say something to me. And she walked up to me and she says, "We just want to let you know you're doing a good job." And as she started to walk away, she goes, "Now you will get rewarded for all of this." As soon as she said those last few words, rewarded, it clicked in my mind. She was my mother, but she was coming down in a different form to kind of disguise herself. But the odd part was when I mentioned her to other people in the store, they did not see her. She only came just, I was the only one allowed to see her. And since my 20s, I've had several encounters, but
Mhm.
I began to realize they're not, it's not really encounters. They're taking me back home for visits. And I've learned because I went under hypnotic regression earlier this year, and I've learned through the regression that, of course, I live up there at times, and my job here on Earth is to heal and help other people. I have the ability to do what is known as remote viewing, but I also do remote healing. And I've learned through that hypnosis that I can heal people myself just by love and kindness and doing some remote healing work. But people that I cannot heal, my father comes down and takes those people aboard craft, and he can heal them up there. There's a spot on the craft that is similar to Augie's background there, but what happens is my father will program these healing mechanisms into this like computer database, and the person or the whoever we're healing is laying on the floor. There's a blue light that will come up from the floor and kind of like scan their body like this. And it scans them, and that gives them the healing. He can program the computers to for that person's individual needs, like their wavelengths, and then that heals them. Then we bring them back. And I didn't know any of this until I was under hypnotic regression. And several times during that session, I would ask my father, what is all this? What is all this? And he would say that mind your own, you wouldn't not mind your own business, but just do your job, and you wouldn't really explain much. You just kept saying do your job, and then finally I realized that every person on the ship has a different job that they're supposed to do, and so that we do our jobs,
Yeah.
and I've learned quite a bit from that session of hypnosis, and I've gained a lot better understanding and more peace. I still get taken quite a bit, but it's all peaceful, and I understand it now.
I got a question for you. I can't help it. Being a pilot, I just have to ask this question. Did you ever get into what we call the cockpit of the ship? Because what I'm used to, I mean, wall to wall, knobs and dials and screens and an overhead panel and all full of equipment. What did it look like if you got into the cockpit of one of those?
I never don't recall ever being in the cockpit, although I do remember several times flying. And when we were flying, I would be like more or less in the passenger seat. And I can remember it was silent. I mean, the craft moves, but there was no sound. It's very peaceful and very quiet. And it kind of puzzled me. You know, why is there no sound, no engines, no no. And and from what I was told, you know, this is how it works. We think it, and so be it.
Yeah,
And everything that they do on craft, or even when they're flying, everything is just what you say, what you think. That's what's going to be.
yeah. Now that makes life interesting. We really have to control our thoughts then, won't we?
Right.
Some of the stuff we think sometimes, that just probably wouldn't be all that good. But but I know that you have had contact for many years, and up to recent, I think, while you were on the mastermind, you mentioned you had a very recent one. What was that like?
Yes, I had one uh, last week or the week before. My weeks are kind of mixed up. I've been on vacation for a few weeks, but I was sitting in a chair, and actually it's the same chair I'm sitting in now, and I was eating dinner. This was like there again at 9:30 at night, and all of a sudden I woke up an hour later, and something seemed off about it. But to me, it seemed like it was simultaneous. One minute I'm eating, next minute I'm waking back up and couldn't figure out what exactly had happened. And I realized, okay, I looked around, and it looked as if my food had been like dropped on the floor, and everything kind of looked a little off. And I realized, okay, they must have took me. Well, the more I, as about 24 hours went by, I began to slowly recall some of that. And I remember being aboard ship, and they were almost, I want to say, like kind of like having a meeting.
Hmm.
There was some of us standing around together, and it was like I don't know if it was a meeting or if they were just maybe giving us our assignments or whatever. But I just remember it was like a one person here, here, and then that's basically all I remember. And I've had something similar to that before. Last year when I was taken one night, there was a group of my family and some few people I didn't know. I almost want to say like a group of eight, and they all kind of formed a circle. And I was in the front of the circle, and they were giving us like a lecture of some sort, and then I was brought back.
Hmm. Okay. Well, there's a lot of different experiences that people have, and I think for those of you out there that think you have had an experience and you don't know, there is a way to find out. And that is by hypnotic regression. And speak about that a little bit, Christopher, because there is a way to go back and find out what really did happen.
Yes, I had hypnotic regression, and it's nothing to be afraid of necessarily. I mean, I laid back and relaxed, and then they give their I guess you call it like a speech, and then tell you to relax, and kind of take your mind slowly back to that time frame, and then next thing you know, you're able to speak to your, I want to say your higher self and gather information. And my hypnosis was recorded so I can play it back and I can hear a lot of the stuff that was said. And mine lasted about 7 to 8 hours. There was a break in between, and you learn, and I learned quite a bit from that. I learned there was no fear involved. I was never harmed. They are my family and they love me, and it is very peaceful. And of course, not everybody can have the same type of regression. Some people may have more of a fearful uh, memories, but mine was all very peaceful. And I actually walked out of there feeling more loved than when I went in because I understood it more.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I know through hypnosis, phenomenal things can be done. You can dig things out of your memory from all the way when you were that tall, and you can remember what happened. Or before you were born, you can actually go back and find out what did you do in a lifetime 325 years ago. If you really go after it, it is possible. But then the hypnotists have to get you way down into the theta at the bottom of that, where you don't remember a thing while you're doing it until you run the recording, and then you get surprised. There's amazing things that can be done. But I want to ask you another thing too, and that is something that MUFON, which you are a field investigator for, they are on the forefront on a lot of that. And they get cases that were sightings and artifacts possibly. But why do you think that there's so much more activity among sightings of UFOs and even extraterrestrials right now? Why did that not happen before? Are we being set up for something? That it might be a clandestine operation of something fake showing up in the sky someday? Why do you think now more so than before?
Well, I think there's actually two answers to that. Number one, that we are being set up for a fake alien invasion, and a lot of these government officials and different people are trying to put the fear into us. But another possibility too is the fact that now that this UFO topic is becoming more mainstream, it's on the news more, it's in the papers more, and people are now starting to feel more comfortable about talking about their experiences too. More people are being able to come around and say, hey, when I was back a few years ago, I had an encounter, but I never mentioned it, or I saw a ship and I forgot to never did report it. And people are starting to feel more comfortable to talk about it now. And I work with people like that. They say that they didn't know where to report it, didn't know who to report it to, but now that the topic is more out there, they're learning more and they want to talk more, discuss it.
Yeah, I think they've been shoving things under the carpet for so long that the pile is so big now that everybody sees the lump of the carpet, so they want to know what's underneath, and they can't keep it secret anymore.
Right. Well, we get over, so in some cases, we'll get up to 600 cases a month. And out of those 600 cases, a lot of those can be easily debunked as weather balloons, stars in the sky,
Yeah.
helicopter lights, jets, and even mylar balloons, excuse
Mhm.
the tone, weather balloons and various things, and even
Yeah.
camera reflections. I get a lot of cases with that. But then it's those other cases that are unexplained, and those are the ones that we get excited about because those have the possibility of being actual ET craft or something more interesting that requires a good investigation.
Yeah. What you have investigated several things from MUFON. What is the one incident that stands out all above the others that you can talk about?
There was one incident, a case I worked on that really does stand out the most, and it was a gentleman who he was a child and he had a friend come over. They were going to have a sleepover or stay the night, And this gentleman now, he's a cop, and I worked with him. He had a story to tell me, but he had never told anybody. And being a cop, you don't normally just talk about stuff like this. But he said he wanted somebody to talk to, and so I telephoned him and we spoke. He said he had a friend sleep over to the house one night. They were to go outside and talk and have some drinks and enjoy themselves. Mom and Dad was in bed. They saw this, and there again. This was at 9:30 at night. There's that number again, and this is the truth. He saw a black ship come over, made the whole sky pitch black for a few seconds. After the ship passed over, which only took about 2 seconds, it was now 5:30 in the morning, and the sun was starting to come up. And he said that it shook his friend up so bad that he just didn't even say goodbye, just went home. And he said he had to live with this fear of what might have happened because there was all that missing time from 9:30 to 5:30. He said he lived with his fear all this time through marriage, through having kids, through everything. He said now that he had somebody to talk to, he said I don't really care so much about the UFOs or the alien part. He said I just want to know if you could possibly tell me how time went from 9:30 to 5:30 in 2 seconds. He said I cannot get that off my mind. So I spoke with him and explained everything to him. I said, "What you could have possibly been taken?" And he kind of got real quiet, and he says, "Yeah, I kind of thought maybe something like that." That's one case I'll
Yeah.
never forget.
Now that's one guy that needs to go see a hypnotist to find out what really the details were in that incident. Yeah, he needs to. And they have many different ways to communicate with us. There's visual things, and they can even talk back and forth in our own language. But more so, it's kind of like we hear the voice in our head, so it's telepathic. Did you have anything that you could say was, yeah, that was a telepathic communication? You have an experience like that?
Yes, there's been times because certain situations come up where somebody will be asking me for help, maybe for healing or to find a lost loved one or even just find jewelry or things that's lost, and people ask me for help. And there are times when I'll hear a voice in my mind. I know it's not me, but it's a voice that comes. And I always wonder why do these voices always come over here? I've always felt ET presence when they come. They're always coming over here. And it finally dawned on me why they come over here. Because I'm deaf in my left ear. I don't hear out of my left ear, so they always come on my right side. But I'll hear a voice and they will say like, do this, or you can go or help that person. It's a male voice I hear, but it's always giving me the go ahead. We got you. We'll help you. And there was one incident I was with. For those who know Kathleen Martin, I was in a meeting with her one day, and we were talking about spirit guides, and every person in the room said they could feel their spirit guides were with them or their ET friends. And I was sitting there and I said, well, mine's not here. As soon as I said mine's not here, I got a shove right here, like a quick shove. And okay, you are here.
Hmm.
But there are times,
Something was there.
but there are times when I'm in a situation somebody needs
Yeah,
help, or even just a daily situation, I will hear a message come through, and it
yeah.
gives me guidance on which way to go.
When there are times, and there are reports on this, that to say that the extraterrestrial have a way to just be in front of you, and in a snap of a finger, they're no longer there. How do you think that works?
I think it's all done through thought process, just based on what I've experienced and learned. Because I saw my father last October 2023, and he came to me in a dream, and he was standing in a clear, empty room in his true natural form, which to me looked like a large grasshopper, but they said no, it's probably a praying mantis that I saw. That was my father. And I know it was him because he had that I had that certain feeling, and he gave me that feeling, and then we embraced and hugged. Nothing was ever said. We just embraced and hugged, and and after the hug was gone, he disappeared, and within a matter of seconds, I was back in my chair, and it was the most loving thing I'd ever felt next to my mother. And we were, and the thing is, we were able to communicate just by hug. We never said a word. We just hugged, and that said it all.
Yeah. Yeah, and they sometimes speak our language, but there's another language they use, and that is the visual one. We can actually get information. There's several reports on that that I've seen. They get information that shows up as a vision. Have you had any read anything about that you could talk about?
I've had that experience numerous times as a child growing up. There were times I would get visions in my mind of people and places I did not know what it was, and then later on, I'd be in a situation where that vision had come true, or I would think, well, it seems like I just saw this the other night, and I remembered it was my vision. But the visions only last for me only last just a few seconds. It's like a screen image that pops in my mind for 2 seconds. It'll be a place or a person or a thing or an event,
Mhm.
and then later on it comes true. I wish I would have wrote more of that stuff down when I was a kid, but I didn't have the sense to write things down. It'd be good to share those stories, but it's even to this day, there's times it still happens, and it always happens out of the clear blue. It'll just be a quick image, and then I realize, okay, later on something's going to happen in regards to that, and it does.
Mhm. Yeah. I know MUFON, Mutual UFO Network, they have their certain standards and stand on individual incidents that may be investigated. And if you go and investigate something and you find something that MUFON does not like, I know the Billy Meyer case, they don't want anything to do with it because they're saying it's too real. Do you have, now this is a tricky question, do you have freedom to actually voice yourself contrary to what MUFON talks about, or do you have to toe the line when you work with them?
It kind of goes both ways. If we feel strongly about a certain case or a certain let's say situation we're working with, if we feel strongly that this case is going in a certain direction, we can definitely speak up and let them know, and then they will tell us what steps to take.
Yeah.
But in most cases, it depends on what. If we're working with somebody who has maybe had an actual encounter, then we're going to handle that person a certain way. And if a person maybe doesn't have as strong of an encounter, maybe let's say we feel this person is kind of embellishing the truth a little bit. We don't want to put them on the spot and make them feel terrible. We will handle that in a certain way. So every case kind of has a certain way. But if we feel a need to speak up and say something, yeah, they will listen to us and even help us.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can
I,
say that move on over the
yeah. I see we are at the bottom of the hour here. So whoever now joined us watching this being late, we are talking with Christopher Harmon. He is a field investigator for MUFON, and he has had many of his own experiences. And we are talking about the mysteries of UFOs, and we're going to talk more about aliens, as well as I'm going to bring up something about the moon landing, what maybe he thinks and what MUFON thinks. That could, who knows, it might be two different things. So we're back here, and yeah, how about that? What is MUFON's stand on all the evidence that show that there's something wrong with what we were told about the moon landing?
the moon landing.
What is their stand on it? What do they say?
They do believe the moon landing did happen, but yet they also believe in the fact that there's always a window of possibility that it could have been just a hoax or something that make us think that happened, but they won't say one way or the other. They kind of keep when we're in MUFON, we try to keep everything neutral. That way, we're not stepping on anybody's toes.
Hmm. Yeah. No,
But
yeah, go ahead.
I believe the moon landing very well could have been just a hoax because if you look at everything that we had technology wise at the time, there's not really a whole lot we had then to make it all possible, but yet it could have been. I'm kind of in that neutral zone myself.
Yeah. I uh, I have my opinion too, and that is that yeah, we've been on the moon. In fact, we're still on the moon. We're doing got big things going on up there, but we're not being told about it. And the thing though is that I don't think they went to the moon in 1969 exactly the way they told us. Because we've been on the moon since the mid 1950s with the technology they got from the Germans in the Haunebu 2 and Haunebu 3. They were spacefaring crafts that the Germans created during the Second World War. We have the evidence, we got the documents, we got the videos, testimonies, it's all there. So I think they used that because they got their hands on at least two of the Diahanebu, and they back engineered that. In fact, they didn't even need to because they got the complete craft. So we just figure out how to fly it. That was the only thing they needed to know how to do. So yeah, we've been on the moon, but when it comes to 1969, what do you really think about that?
Well, I think that and this may sound a little far-fetched, but I think that some of it may have been done just to just to get the public to kind of stand up and take notice because
Hmm.
we did have the technology to even then to go on the moon, I guess if we really wanted to, but I don't know for sure if it was more like a publicity type thing to get noticed.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I've seen some videos where you can kind of tell that it wasn't exactly what it seemed. If you see the raw videos, if you ever have.
yeah. I talked to several years ago now, I talked to a nuclear physicist, and I asked him, what do you think about the 1969 moon landing? And he laughed at me and he said, have you ever heard about the Van Allen belt? And I said, yeah, I have. I looked into that. And he asked me, what will happen if you put a spoon in your microwave and turn the knob to the right and push the cook button? What will happen? I think the thing will just come unglued or spark all over the place. He says that's exactly what will happen in that craft going to the moon. He said because of the radiation coming from the sun. So I got my doubts that they would be able to do it in the tin can that they told us. But if they have, like the Haunebu, they had their Glock in the middle, and then they created this bubble around the craft that shielded them from the radiation so they could go there. But I don't think in the other one. That's my opinion, and you know what they say about opinion, so I'm going to leave that one alone for now. But this is something that people should look into this so they get their own opinion because half the time that NASA talks to us, they lie. But we don't know which half the time.
Right.
Then again, that's my opinion. And now you're also a paranormal investigator, and you do a show. You talk about these kinds of things. What in the paranormal investigations that you do? What is mostly that all about?
Yes, we like to go to unique places, places that a lot of people don't investigate, and we go to places that are kind of that we find because we'll drive around and see things that are kind of unique, like maybe abandoned places or even just places that people wouldn't normally go to. And of course, we also help families and people in need as well. If you need help with cleansing your house or getting rid of what might be in there, we'll take care of that. Just a week or so ago, we did a investigation at an old abandoned school, and we went there and we stayed there pretty much for 8 hours, and we just sat and listened and run our equipment and captured a lot of voices. We found that most of what we captured there was a combination of residual hauntings and actual hauntings. We do a lot of listening. Mainly, we don't say a whole lot. We listen and let the spirits talk to us if they want, and then if they need help crossing over, we'll help them. Because if you go into a building or a place and start hollering, "Hey, we're here, come talk to us," you might scare their spirits off because spirits are just are people like us, and they have feelings too. So if you go in there screaming and hollering, you're going to scare them. We go in there, we just introduce ourselves, sit quietly, relax, let them come to us. Like I had a couple of children come to me at the school, and they come up to my shoulder and they brush my arm, and you can hear them kind of giggling and laughing, and but they were comfortable because we treat them like humans, and that's the main thing. Treat them like humans, and then you'll have a better investigation. Our shows are on YouTube and also on Facebook as well. It's called Something Wicked Paranormal Investigations. Look that up, and you can watch all of our shows. We got new stuff coming up, and even a new episode we may be filming this weekend. So,
Hmm. To get what we call spirit communication, do you use electronic equipment of any kind that you have?
yes, I have a device I use. It's called the Paranormal Puck 2. It looks like a little hockey puck, and what it does is you turn your application on your phone and you ask a question, and the puck will send that question to the spirit realm, and then they can answer it back. In fact, one of the cases we did a couple years ago, I was using that puck, and I asked the question, "Where should I be looking?" And he said, "I'm in the tub," and I said tub, and then it said the word behind. And one of the other guys running the cameras, the producer, said, "Chris, turn around." Right behind me, when I turned my flashlight on, there was a old wash tub behind me, which kind of solidifies the fact that the puck does work. No guarantees you'll get answers every time properly on it, but we did then.
Hmm.
Sometimes we use voice
Yeah.
recorders. I like to take just a simple old-fashioned tape recorder and just hit record and just let it capture, because some of the older equipment is going to capture a lot more than the newer equipment, because the newer equipment's got filters on it that takes out a lot of the stuff that you hear. Just an old-fashioned recorder, you'll get a lot better sound.
Yeah, especially those old the 1980s handheld, tape recorders. They're good at this stuff
Oh
because,
yes.
yeah, because it's pretty simple to catch spirit communication. And there are electronic equipment that you can build. And this is something for you researchers out there. Go ahead and go to YouTube and put in the search bar the Tesla Spirit Radio. Then you're going to have a whole bunch of people that have built this radio. And it's simple to do. It's only about 14 different parts because Nikola Tesla patented that thing in 1901. And that was way before there was any radios in the country. The first radio station was started in 1923 in Pittsburgh, I think. And what he said is that he created this radio, and I gotta have to paraphrase because he said I was alone in my laboratory, and I heard several voices communicating with each other in a language I did not understand, and it terrified me. Now, Nikola Tesla was fluent in 7 languages, so there was something there that was talking back and forth before there were radios anywhere in the country, and he caught it on his. that was an interdimensional communication, and I'm quite sure of it. Have you ever dealt with that Tesla Spirit Radio?
I've never used one. We use spirit boxes and various things, but I find
Yeah,
I find some of the best evidence is just captured with just a like we talked about an old tape recorder or an old camera and just eyes and ears. In fact, even
yeah.
recently, I have two cameras that I use on investigations. One's a newer camera, a fancier one, and then one is an older camera. I always use the old camera because I will capture images of spirits and even people. Like the last case we just did at the school, I captured a gentleman sitting at a school desk. You could see his head, his feet, his arms, sitting at the school desk writing on paper. And
Mhm,
if you use a newer camera that I use, the newer camera won't capture that, but the old camera with no filters captured it perfectly.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. It's very interesting when you start diving into this stuff. And like you said, just because they're dead, they're still folks. They're kind of like us. They're just in a different room. They can see us, but we can't see them. And
Right.
some of them don't believe they're dead. They just can't figure out, why don't you guys want to talk to me anymore?
We had that happen before in cases where we had a gentleman once that he didn't know he had passed away. And he was
Yeah,
upset because his family was ignoring him. We had to help him cross over and let him know that it was his time to go, that he was no longer physically here.
yeah. What do you hear from the ones that have extraterrestrial contacts or meetings or even abductions about what do the extraterrestrials believe? Do they believe in a higher conscious being or God or anything of a higher nature like that?
Yes, through my communication with the ETs, they have told me that there is a higher source. They call it source. We call it God. They call it a higher source.
Hmm.
And they've told me personally, they've told me that we were all one togetherness. Everything is one. That there is no this and that. It's all one source, one one thing. And when I asked them, what do you mean by one thing? We're all created by one source and we're all one togetherness. And they've even told me that just like what we're living in right now, we might call it time, like AM, PM, and different things. They don't do that because we're up there. There is no time. It's all just happening in the now. Everything is now, and
Yeah.
that's what makes it so easy. That's what makes it easy for them to travel, per se, through time because everything is just right here and now. And
Mm.
so when I'm up there with them, I could be there for several days, but come back here and it's like I never left because everything is just now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how time travel is done. You step out of the physical, move backwards or forwards until the time coded event that you have decided on, and then you pop back in the physical, and there you are, 1,000 years in the past or in the future. Now, the future is more tricky though, because future is fluid. It hasn't happened yet. So it is all designed by the way that you may think it might be, and that's what is created for you. So it gets a little convoluted. But another thing I wondered, now you had experiences, but why you? Did your parents have them also? Or?
I know my parents never had the experiences. I was born 8 weeks early and they didn't think I would make it, but I guess ETs or spirit guides, I'm pretty sure it was ETs that healed me and helped me breathe on my own and come into the now, come and be alive. And since that time, I've had several near-death experiences. I've been in 4 or 5 car accidents that I could have easily died in. I was almost exploded once. Even as a child, I fell down a flight of stairs at grandma's house backwards, 12 steps, tumbled down. And I got up and walked away without a mark or scratch on me. I never understood why all this happened until I began to have encounters with ETs. I mean, as a child, I was too afraid to look at them. I just thought it was dreams. The older I got, the more sense it made. And then when I got into my 20s, that's when I started realizing, okay, let's look at this. Let's face this. And that's when I realized what was going on. And there's nothing to be afraid of. I'm never harmed. They help me. I help them. We work together as a family. And
Yeah.
what makes it so great is the fact that I have such trust in them. Even though even to this day, sometimes they take me out of the clear blue, and I wonder what happened. But then when I think about it, okay, I remember it's all peaceful. I can't say anything bad about being about the ETs because all my experiences have been great.
Yeah.
And my family, we don't discuss too much about it with them because they've never had experiences. They've had some paranormal stuff, but they never had anything ET. I mean, if they did, they've never said anything. They never told me, but I'm the only one that's ever been through anything, and I do occasionally bring it up to my family, but the times I have brought it up, they just you might just been dreaming, Chris, but then I know I wasn't.
Yeah. I think that the alien interference in our lives is much more so widespread than we think. And I'll tell you why I think that, because about 3 weeks ago, I interviewed somebody on our show, the Broadcast Team Alpha show, and he said that he was sitting at an intersection in his car and he was driving. He got a green light and he drove out, and there were a pickup truck coming from the left. And he said, there is no way that pickup truck would not hit me. But the pickup truck went right through his car and continued on the other side, and nothing happened. Now, we can go just about anywhere with this one, but I've heard two other people that have had something like this happen. So I know it does. I'm wondering if that was an extraterrestrial interference or if it was a spiritual interference because you may not have been fulfilled your mission that you came here with yet. So they wanted to protect you to make sure that you could. I'm just theorizing here, but between ET and spiritual interference, what do you think?
I think it probably was ET, but even ETs can be like a spirit guides because they're there to help you and guide you.
Yeah,
And like they told me before that my job here on Earth is to heal and help other people, and they're there to help me and guide me, and they will point me in the right direction. There's been so many times, and this is honest truth, so many times I've been in situations where I saved somebody who was choking once. I even saved a woman who was in a parking lot and she lost control of her grocery cart, and I was there. I've always been in the right place at the right time to help somebody. It's at first I was couldn't understand why. It was like I could literally walk into a building or a place, and at that moment somebody would need help, and I'd be right there to save the day for them. And now that I'm older, my ET family has told me that you have we give you the gift and the abilities to help, and so that's what I do. I help people every day.
yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of things out there that we ponder about, and it is our job to find out. And we don't find out what's going on watching 5 o'clock news. We got to step out of the box. I'm so far out of the box now, I have no clue where the box is anymore. But it is our job. We come here for education and grow and learn spiritually. I think the physical body and the physical welfare of us is of a lesser importance than what the spiritual self is. What do you think?
I 100% agree with that, and I will say that if anybody who's listening, if you make a mistake or have made a mistake, take that mistake and put it behind you and move forward with it with a new intent. Don't let that weigh you down because you're not going back there. You're going ahead of yourself. Go to the forward and smile and be happy because because there's always brighter days ahead. Don't let the past take control of you.
Yeah. Now you do a podcast also. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's a show I do on Friday nights. It's called Tranquility Talks. And during that 1 hour show, I discuss a wide range of topics, everything from UFOs to Bigfoot to paranormal. Even talk about my remote viewing that I teach during the week, my classes. Just basically anything. It could be Area 51, or even a couple weeks ago we did an episode on the Havana syndrome, which was interesting. We pick a different topic each weekend for that 1 hour. I will discuss that, show video clips, photos, and it's a great time. And time goes by pretty quick during that 1 hour. We enjoy it so much.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun talking about stuff like this on shows. And now you also do remote view. You teach remote viewing.
Yes, I was
How
born.
can people get involved with that?
Yeah, if you want to take my classes, just send me an email at mufon.chris@yahoo.com and I will sign you up. It's $100 course, and that $100 pays for the whole certification. After you take the first course, which is remote viewing, you can move on to the second course, remote healing, where I teach you how to heal uh, aches, pains, and different things. Then there's a third course, remote influencing. That's how I teach you how to make changes in life and make changes for the better, like take away a person's fear, take away a person's hate and anger by replacing it with love and positivity. And there's also another course I teach because they is advanced remote viewing. That is where I teach you how to do it all up here in your mind really quickly, and I teach you how to meditate, how to relax, how to remain calm, and make the right decisions and make changes without. Because the basic course you do it all on paper. That is the beginning course. That is where I help you how to see with your mind's eye and not use your thinking side so much. The advanced course I teach you how to focus more over here and block that out. And I'm getting ready in September. I'm getting ready to teach a time travel course, which I will teach you how to remote view the past and even the future. And that's coming up, I believe September the 7th, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
All all of my courses are $100, and that pays for your certification. I'm probably one of the cheapest persons around to teach, but I don't teach for money. I teach for the love and to help other people. So
Yeah, I know. I have friends here, two friends actually here in Tucson that is doing remote viewing, and they're pretty good at it. It's not that hard to learn. You should look into that. Maybe contact Chris and go through one of the courses because you'll have a blast doing it when you start looking into what's on the moon, what's on
when I teach,
Mars. Yeah,
when I
what?
teach, I teach,
Yeah,
I teach in such I teach in a fun, a loving way. And my classes are so enjoyable. One of my students just recently, she just started taking my course. On her second week, the target we gave her, she nailed it perfectly. Within just 10 minutes, she had it nailed perfectly. She had it all, and she was shocked. She was smiling. She couldn't wait to go tell her family.
yeah. Just for the fun of it, sometime go ahead and get yourself a map of the moon and find the Schrodinger crater. The Schrodinger, Schrodinger, I think, crater. Look at what's in the bottom of it. If you find that, that's your homework, folks, because there's something very extraordinary in the bottom of that. Go have a look at it. Try your remote viewing on that too. I tell you, it'll blow your mind if you find out what's in the bottom of that crater, off to the edge a little bit. So yeah, and now you are doing the podcast on Friday nights. What time?
It's Fridays at 8 p.m. Central. And if you go on YouTube or Facebook, go to Grizzly on the Hunt. And if you go there and then just go down to the live videos, and you'll see me at 8 o'clock on Fridays. It's a 1 hour show. It's fantastic. Every week is something different. I love to pick new topics, and I'm even open for suggestions if the public wants to put in the chat room. Go to YouTube, because that's where, if you go to YouTube, you can participate in the chat room. Let me know what you'd like to see, and if we get enough votes, we'll do some of your ideas.
Mhm. Do you have a website also yet?
I do not have a website. I believe we do have one for our paranormal group. It's on Facebook. Just go to SWPI Pekin,
Okay.
SWPI Pekin on Facebook. And then for MUFON, if you go to MUFON.com for all the UFO stuff, it is fantastic. And MUFON has their own television network, MUFON TV. So look that up. You can see a lot of good videos.
That's right. Yeah. Now the MUFON site is really worth looking at because they got pictures and stuff on there. That's really incredible.
And we just launched, MUFON just launched Project Aquarius. Project Aquarius is an online library with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of newspaper articles, interviews, and photos, and even drawings from the witnesses you can look at. And there's some amazing stuff in there. And
Yeah.
you're almost guaranteed to find something that you can't live without when you start looking.
Mhm. What's the website for MUFON? Is it MUFON.com?
Yeah, it is MUFON.com, and then you can find everything there.
Mhm. Okay, that's interesting. Well, gosh, I see we're just about out of time here, but what is next for you now?
Mhm.
You're doing so many things. I bet you're going to start learning how to do something more.
I guess I'm getting ready to possibly start learning hypnosis. I've been kind of interested in that. I'm also taking a course, thinking about taking a course on handwriting. There's a course that you can learn to read and see in just handwriting, and so that is some stuff coming up. We're going to be filming another paranormal episode this weekend. We're going to be camping out at a paranormal site. I can't give out where at, but we got that coming up. I'll be on, of course, my show this coming Friday with a new topic, and I'll be doing another interview coming up in September, and even a few more in between there. I can't give out too much, but
Mhm.
every week something different, and I will say that I do enjoy Augie's mastermind. So if you haven't checked that out yet, please check that out, because that is where
Yeah,
all the magic happens per se.
yeah, we're doing incredible things over there. But I got one more question for you, and that's the one I just don't want to tell the guest that I'm going to ask because I want to blindside them with it. And that is, if you could talk to the whole world and the world is listening, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to drop all the hate. Just sit down and just let all your hate and everything just let it all leave your body. Just completely exit. Get it all off your body. Release everything, and then tell yourself that it's a new day, it's a new life, it's a new me. I'm going to live happy from this point forward. And don't look back, because there's nothing behind you that you need to find. You need to smile and go forward. And I wish love for the whole world. I really do.
Yep, that's a good one. We got to be in charge of ourselves because if we are not, someone else is, and they're not doing it for our benefit. They are doing it for their benefit. That's
That is true.
my opinion again. All right. Well, thank you very much, Chris, for being with us. This was fun. We went into a lot of good stuff here.
We did. It was a lot of fun. Time flies
Oh,
by when you're having a good time.
yeah. Thank you very much. And until next week, be good to each other. Okay, the recording stopped. So now we can say anything we want.
All right.
Nothing?
Why not?
Hello.
Yeah. Yes, Patty, what do you say?
Oh, I put a comment in there about Parkes, the radio telescope, and their part in the 1969 moon landing.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, because I know a guy that worked. He didn't work for the telescope, but he worked for the telecommunications provider, and they really made sure that that worked because it was essential for them to maintain contact with the space trip. Maybe it didn't happen either. I'm still not betting on that, but they certainly made it look like it was working.
Okay.
Yeah, it was actually quite fascinating because they actually lost them. Parks actually lost contact of them, and they had to try to figure out where they were. And by dead reckoning, they pulled it off, and they got back in contact because what's his name in Texas they couldn't. There's some parts where the moon was the spacecraft was on the other side of the moon, and we were able to pick them up.
Yeah.
Quite intriguing.
And the really fun part is that, speaking of the moon, when I was doing research for one of my books, I found that there were some old papers coming out of India where they talk about there were two moons. One is the one we have, and the other one was a little smaller, and it was bluish in color. I wonder where the term blue moon comes from. It comes out of the distant past.
That's probably quite certain, I think. Yeah. But like most things, they cover them up these days. Have a spiel.
And there were blue people back there too. They talk about the blue race.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. And they were not aliens. I think it wrote that they were living both on the surface and under the surface. So yeah, there's mysteries everywhere we turn, isn't it?
That's for sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for staying with us.
No, not a problem. I like listening to you guys on all things new.
Yeah, we tried to make it as fun as we could. So
that's
all we could.
I'm a bit curious to know if Christopher has ever been, when he's in his travels, has he actually come to Australia? Is there any alien contact over here? I have no doubt there is, but I wonder if Christopher's come across any.
Yeah.
Contact where?
In Australia.
Yeah.
That's where I live, and
yeah, you can't miss that accent.
Yeah.
There's been a few reports from Australia. We've gotten a few of them.
They're wrong. Yeah, I mean, a few years ago, I was talking to a fellow who his son, I think it was up driving tractors up in the Northern Territory on a farming task, and he just, out of curiosity, we went beyond the end of the field to have a bit of a look into a bit of a gully, and in there was a UFO, and they spotted him, and obviously they took off fairly quickly, and so he reported it to the I think they called it the Blue Book people. They were looking at it, which was essentially our Air Force, and apparently the Blue Book people came up there. They could see the marks in the ground. They said, "Yeah, there's definitely been an alien craft here. What are you going to do about it?" Well, What are you guys going to do about it? We're not going to do anything about it. You can go and tell people about it if you like, but we don't care. He said, "We've seen this stuff all the time."
Yeah. Well, there's another conundrum.
Oh, I don't. There's no doubt that there, particularly when you recognise that we see less than 1% of our total light spectrum. It's visible to us. So there's a lot of stuff out there that we can't see, but it's probably right outside my window now. Who knows?
Yeah. And when we think about our universe is the wrong word anyway, there's multiverse, but for what we can imagine on our vibratory level of existence, it boggles the mind. But think of this. We can only experience and see less than 1% of the light spectrum. What about the other 99% in higher vibration and lower vibration? There are people living there. There are entities living there, spiritual beings, godlike being living in the higher vibrations, and they're just as real as we think we are.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, there is no limit to our imagination and what it can actually perceive to be real. Absolutely no limitations. Yeah. On that, I think I'm going to go have another cup of coffee.
I'll have to research Chris, and I'm very keen about this remote viewing thing.
Yeah, get in touch with them on that. I tell you, from what I've seen people do here, their remote viewing is real. You got to go try it.
I have taught over 130 classes so far, and I've had success with every student. I've never had a student that could not pass my class.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
So I can find that by looking up the MUFON.com site. Is that right, Chris?
No, just you have to go to my email address, mufon.chris@yahoo.com.
Oh, okay. MUFON.chris.com. Okay, thanks. Thanks.
Yeah, that's what the phone can do to you. There you go. Okay, what do you think, Dudley?
Well, I've had my own paranormal experiences over the years, and I've had ET visitation. I'm not aware of being on a ship, but I've changed dimensions or switched dimensions. So whether I was actually on a ship, but not aware of it, but aware of the beings, seeing the beings. So yeah, they're definitely there. They're cloaked. I've seen plenty of things in the sky. I've actually even seen clouds open up and seeing steps. So like you're going to the pearly gates, so actually going onto the steps into the clouds. So whether that's another form of UFO or UAP, as they're called now. Yeah, so they're definitely there. And isn't the moon a space station?
It is.
Yeah.
The back side of the moon is where the ETs store their food supplies. I found that out through some of my contacts and through remote viewing. I did a case.
Oh, okay.
I did a case a few years back for the Texas cattle mutilations, and I did the remote viewing for their case, and I was told through remote viewing that the back side of the moon is where some of the ETs store their food.
Wow. Yeah. So when you say food, what?
Cattle.
Oh, cattle. Okay, right. Okay. So why do they want cattle or like cattle or what's
they use the cattle for energy and as kind of like a source of protein for them. What they told me, and I'm not saying I guarantee this information, but what they told me through my work was that they're not taking all the cattle on Earth. They just take enough for their supplies. But we can always make more cattle.
Right. So if they use it for food, do they consume it vibrationally? Because they wouldn't have a digestive tract, would they?
No, they take the food, and this may sound weird, but they take the food and they're able to like take it and then like put it into them somehow like this.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Put the hands in it and make a solution and put the hands in it, absorb the
so
at least
like
some
an
of them
energy.
do. Yeah.
Right. So it, yeah. So vibrationally, they get that energy from the cow.
Yeah.
Like they're not physically taking the pieces of the cow. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, or other animals.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm. So when these cows are found like that, how do they make them deceased?
A lot of them disappear
Beg your pardon,
too.
you kind of cut it.
Sorry.
Chris?
Yeah, some of the cows do completely disappear because they will take the cow aboard the ship, and then later
Right.
on they will drop the bones back at their location or maybe a slightly different location. Oddly enough, they don't always put an animal back in the exact same spot. They try to, but sometimes they get off there, and you can tell if it was an abduction or if the animal just had a problem, because if the animal was taken aboard craft and used, then the bones will be laid back in a completely disarranged site, and the bones will be brought back completely wiped clean, not a speck on them.
Right. So do they feel any pain when they're taken?
Um, I can't speak for the animals, but I would imagine at some point that during the process, I'm sure they do.
Mm, okay. And is it any particular alien race that does this?
I know it can be pretty much any race, although there are some races like the ones that I'm related to. They're more kind, so they try to not take anything that they feel it doesn't belong to them. Like the ones the family that I'm with, they'll take more like the stray animal or something like that that's not doesn't have any attachment to somebody. 'Cause they try to be more humble and nice.
No.
But the Greys, some of the Greys and some of the other ones, they will take the cattle and just pretty much wipe it clean. They don't really care in some cases.
No. Mm, okay. Interesting.
Mhm. Okay. I'm going to see if I can find out how to get out of this big screen. Oh, no. Well, I think we had an interesting show. So, and of course, Sheila will be back for the next one. So, all right. Well, any other good things before we go?
Well, Desley was just talking about the cattle and that, and Stephen Christopher, I mean, was talking about it as well. Quite a number of years ago, probably 20 years ago, I read a book about it where farmers were finding a lot of cattle, and sometimes they'd obviously been lifted up, been something had been taken from them, and then they'd just been let fall, and they'd be straddling fences and things like that. And interestingly, they were in the vicinity around where Area 51 is.
Oh, yeah.
Which doesn't exist according to the Americans, but it does. And there were like the book I read would have, I guess they would have spoken about at least 100 records of cattle and being found. And typically, if I remember rightly, a lot of the times there's very fine surgery is taken place on the joints in the bone in the legs, as if there's something in there that's really valuable to them.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many strange things when it comes to the abduction. There are more than one incident where somebody got abducted and they found themselves alone in the room on the ship. So they got off the table and walked around the ship, and then they saw a person with a US military uniform in one of the rooms, standing like he was working with one of the Greys. So the dark side of the military in the United States is working with some of the aliens, and they're doing abductions. They're sick people. But then again, that's my opinion.
Well, I suppose they're trying to get some advantage in getting better spacecraft for themselves.
Yeah.
So that they can go and beat everybody else up and take over the whole world. Or
Yeah. All right. Well,
good on you.
I'm gonna
Thanks
go.
very much.
Yeah. Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah. I'm
You
trying to
will-
catch up with Chris.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk to you soon. See you later, Chris. See you Sunday.
Yeah, guaranteed.
Yeah, if you guys want to have a look at the mastermind where we create things out of nothing, just send me an email. themastermindconnection@gmail.com. I'll get you a link. All right.
Thank you.
That's
Okay,
great.
take care. In the
Thank
words
you. All the best.
in the words of Spock, live long and prosper.
Amen.